What happens when America's sweetheart turns into a television tyrant right before our very eyes? It only took 37 seconds for Kelly Clarkson to destroy her reputation and shock millions of viewers in what insiders are calling the most explosive talk show meltdown in television history. Last night, behind the bright lights and cheerful set of The Kelly Clarkson Show, something went terribly wrong. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the beloved former governor and action movie legend, walked onto that stage, expecting a friendly chat about his new charity work. Instead, he found himself face to face with a host who seemed determined to tear him down. What you're about to hear is the exclusive inside story of how one of television's most trusted personalities revealed her true colors in the most shocking way possible. The studio audience had no idea what they were about to witness. The cameras were rolling, the lights were bright, and Kelly Clarkson was sitting across from one of the most respected figures in American entertainment and politics. But something was different about Kelly that day. Staff members backstage later described her as agitated, almost hostile, from the moment Arnold arrived. "Arnold, welcome to the show," Kelly said. Her usual warm smile nowhere to be found. Her voice carried a sharp edge that immediately caught Arnold off guard. "Thank you for having me, Kelly. It's great to be here," Arnold replied, his genuine enthusiasm filling the room. He had that trademark Austrian accent and the kind of energy that made everyone around him feel good. "I'm excited to talk about the new program we're launching for underprivileged kids." But Kelly wasn't interested in hearing about charity work. She had something else on her mind, something that would soon explode into the most uncomfortable television moment of the year. "Let's talk about your past instead," Kelly interrupted, her tone growing colder by the second. "You've made some pretty big mistakes, haven't you, Arnold?" Arnold's face showed confusion. This wasn't what they had discussed during the pre-interview. His publicist had specifically confirmed they would be focusing on his charitable foundation and upcoming community initiatives. But Kelly seemed to have her own agenda. "Well, Kelly, we all make mistakes. That's part of being human," Arnold said carefully, trying to maintain his composure. "But I prefer to focus on the positive things I'm doing now to help people." "Oh, how convenient," Kelly shot back, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "You want to talk about helping people? What about all the people you hurt along the way?" The studio audience began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't the Kelly Clarkson they knew and loved. This wasn't the woman who sang about being stronger or who built her entire brand on lifting people up. This was someone entirely different, someone mean-spirited and cruel. Arnold remained calm, but you could see the hurt in his eyes. Here was a man who had dedicated years of his life to public service, who had overcome incredible obstacles to become one of the most successful people in America. And he was being attacked for no apparent reason. "Kelly, I'm not sure what you're getting at," Arnold said, his voice still patient and kind. "If you have specific questions about something, I'm happy to address them. But I came here today to talk about helping kids who need our support." "Kids?" Kelly's voice rose sharply. "You want to talk about being a role model for kids? That's rich coming from you." The cameras kept rolling, capturing every uncomfortable second. The production crew exchanged worried glances, unsure whether they should intervene. This was live television, and Kelly was spiraling out of control right in front of millions of viewers. Arnold took a deep breath, his hands clasped calmly in his lap. Despite the unprovoked attack, he maintained his dignity. "Kelly, I've spent decades trying to give back to my community and to this country that gave me so many opportunities. I'm proud of the work we're doing." "Proud?" Kelly's laugh was bitter and harsh. "You should be ashamed. How dare you sit there and act like you're some kind of hero?" The audience was now visibly uncomfortable. Some people were looking around at each other with confused expressions. Others were checking their phones, probably wondering if this was some kind of elaborate prank. But this was real, and it was getting worse by the minute. Arnold's calm demeanor never wavered, which seemed to make Kelly even angrier. She had clearly expected him to fight back, to give her the explosive confrontation she seemed to be looking for. Instead, she was facing a man who refused to sink to her level. "I never claimed to be a hero, Kelly," Arnold said quietly. "I'm just a man who's trying to do some good in the world. I thought that's what we were here to discuss today." "Don't give me that innocent act," Kelly snapped. "We both know what kind of person you really are." By now, even the camera operators were struggling to maintain their professional composure. The tension in the studio was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Kelly's own staff looked horrified at what their boss was doing to this respected guest. Arnold leaned forward slightly, his voice still calm but with a hint of steel in it. "Kelly, I don't know what's troubling you today, but this isn't the conversation we agreed to have. I came here in good faith to talk about helping children." "Good faith?" Kelly's voice cracked with anger. "That's hilarious. You wouldn't know good faith if it hit you in the face." The insults kept coming, each one more unprofessional than the last. Arnold sat there taking it all, never once raising his voice or responding with anything other than grace and dignity. It was becoming clear to everyone watching that Kelly had completely lost control of herself and the interview. What happened next would go down as one of the most shocking moments in television history. Kelly Clarkson, the woman millions of Americans trusted and loved, was about to show her true colors in the most devastating way possible. "You know what, Arnold?" Kelly said, her voice getting louder and more aggressive. "I'm tired of people like you getting away with everything. You think you can just waltz in here and pretend to be this wonderful person?" Arnold's eyes widened slightly, but his voice remained steady. "Kelly, I really don't understand what I've done to upset you. Can we please talk about this like adults?" "Adults?" Kelly practically screamed the word. "Don't lecture me about being an adult. You have no right to talk to me about maturity." The studio audience was now completely silent. You could hear a pin drop. Some people in the front row looked like they wanted to get up and leave. Others were staring in complete disbelief at what they were witnessing. This was supposed to be a feel-good morning show, not a public execution. Arnold shifted in his chair, still maintaining his composure despite the relentless attack. "Kelly, whatever is bothering you, this isn't the way to handle it. There are people watching who look up to both of us." "Look up to you?" Kelly's laugh was cruel and cold. "That's the biggest joke I've heard all year. Nobody should look up to you. You're a fraud, Arnold, a complete fraud." The cameras kept rolling, capturing every second of Kelly's meltdown. Her face was red with anger. Her hands were shaking, and she looked like a completely different person from the cheerful host everyone knew. Meanwhile, Arnold sat there taking the abuse with remarkable grace, never once losing his temper or saying anything unkind in return. "I understand you're upset about something," Arnold said, his voice still calm and measured. "But attacking me on television isn't going to solve whatever problem you're dealing with. Maybe we should take a break and talk about this privately." "Oh, now you want privacy?" Kelly shot back. "How convenient. You want to hide behind closed doors when things get uncomfortable." Arnold looked directly into Kelly's eyes, and for a moment, there was complete silence. When he spoke, his voice was gentle but firm. "Kelly, I came here today to talk about helping kids who don't have the advantages we've had. That's all I want to do. If you don't want to have that conversation, then maybe I should leave." "Leave?" Kelly's voice rose to an almost hysterical pitch. "You don't get to decide when this interview is over. I'm the host here, not you." The power dynamic in the room was becoming crystal clear. Kelly was using her position as host to bully and intimidate her guest, while Arnold was trying desperately to maintain some dignity and redirect the conversation to something positive. It was like watching a playground bully picking on someone who refused to fight back. "You're right, Kelly. This is your show," Arnold said quietly. "But I won't sit here and be insulted for no reason. I have too much respect for myself and for your audience." "My audience?" Kelly turned toward the camera with wild eyes. "My audience knows exactly what kind of person you are, Arnold. They're not fooled by your fake nice guy act." But when Kelly looked out at the studio audience, she didn't see agreement or support. She saw confused faces, uncomfortable expressions, and people who clearly thought she had lost her mind. Some audience members were actually shaking their heads in disapproval at her behavior. Arnold noticed the audience's reaction too, and it seemed to give him strength. "Kelly, these people came here today expecting to have a good time and maybe learn something positive. Instead, you're giving them anger and negativity. Is that really what you want your show to be about?" "Don't you dare tell me what my show should be about," Kelly snapped. "I built this show from nothing. I made it successful. I don't need advice from someone like you." "Someone like me?" Arnold repeated, his voice still calm but with a hint of sadness. "What exactly does that mean, Kelly?" Kelly paused for a moment, as if realizing she was about to cross a line she couldn't come back from. But instead of backing down, she doubled down on her cruelty. "It means someone who thinks they're better than everyone else," she said, her voice dripping with venom. "Someone who acts like they're doing the world a favor just by existing." Arnold shook his head slowly, a look of genuine disappointment crossing his face. "That's not who I am, Kelly. And deep down, I think you know that. I don't know what's really bothering you today, but I'm clearly not the right person to help you work through it." The studio fell silent again. Arnold's words hung in the air like a challenge. He wasn't fighting back with anger or insults. Instead, he was showing Kelly exactly what grace under pressure looked like. He was demonstrating the kind of character that had made him successful in business, entertainment, and politics. Kelly seemed to realize that her attacks weren't having the effect she wanted. Arnold wasn't crumbling, wasn't fighting back, wasn't giving her the explosive reaction that would justify her behavior. Instead, he was making her look smaller and more petty with every passing second. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" Kelly said, her voice now sounding desperate rather than angry. "You think you can just sit there and make me look bad." "Kelly, you're making yourself look bad," Arnold said gently. "I'm not doing anything except trying to be respectful and kind. That's all I've ever tried to do." The truth of those words hit everyone in the studio like a freight train. Here was Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the most powerful and successful people in America, being attacked by someone who was supposed to be interviewing him, and he was responding with nothing but class and dignity. But Kelly wasn't done yet. What she said next would shock everyone watching and seal her fate as the villain in this unbelievable confrontation. What Kelly Clarkson said next would end her career as America's sweetheart forever. The words that came out of her mouth were so shocking, so completely out of line, that even her own production team couldn't believe what they were hearing. "You know what, Arnold?" Kelly said, her voice now trembling with rage. "I'm sick of pretending to respect you. I'm sick of pretending that you deserve to be here. You're nothing but a washed-up has-been who can't accept that nobody cares about you anymore." The studio audience gasped. Several people actually covered their mouths in shock. This wasn't just unprofessional anymore. This was personal, cruel, and completely unacceptable. Arnold's face showed genuine hurt for the first time during the entire interview. "Kelly, that's enough," Arnold said, his voice still controlled but with steel underneath. "I've tried to be patient with you, but I won't sit here and let you attack me like this. What you're doing is wrong, and you know it." "Wrong?" Kelly laughed maniacally. "The only thing that's wrong here is that I ever agreed to have you on my show. You're a joke, Arnold. A complete and total joke." Arnold stood up slowly from his chair. The movement was calm and deliberate, but it sent a clear message. He had reached his limit. "I'm going to leave now, Kelly. This conversation is over." "Sit down," Kelly screamed, jumping up from her own chair. "I didn't say you could leave. Nobody leaves my show without my permission." The audience watched in stunned silence as Kelly completely lost control. Her face was bright red, her hands were shaking, and she looked like someone having a complete mental breakdown on live television. Meanwhile, Arnold remained calm and dignified, even in the face of her hysteria. "Kelly, you can't force someone to stay somewhere they don't want to be," Arnold said quietly. "That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works." "Security," Kelly screamed toward the cameras. "Get security in here right now. I want him removed from my studio immediately." Arnold looked around the studio with a sad expression. "Kelly, you're embarrassing yourself in front of millions of people. Please stop this before you do any more damage." But Kelly was beyond reason now. She pointed her finger directly at Arnold, her voice rising to a shriek. "Get out! Get out of my studio right now! You're banned from this show forever." Arnold nodded slowly, his dignity intact despite the humiliating treatment. "I understand, Kelly. I'll leave quietly. But I want your audience to know that I came here today with nothing but good intentions. I wanted to talk about helping children who need our support." "Nobody cares about your stupid charity," Kelly yelled. "Nobody wants to hear about it. Just get out." As Arnold began walking toward the exit, something remarkable happened. The studio audience began to clap. It started with just one person, then two, then a dozen, until the entire studio was giving Arnold Schwarzenegger a standing ovation. They were showing their support for a man who had been treated terribly, but had never once lost his composure or dignity. Kelly looked around at her own audience, applauding her guest, and her face went white with shock. She had expected them to support her, to agree with her attack on Arnold. Instead, they were making it clear that they thought she was completely in the wrong. "Stop clapping," Kelly screamed at her own audience. "Stop it right now. This is my show." But the applause only got louder. People were standing up, some were cheering, and a few were even whistling their approval for Arnold. They had witnessed something extraordinary. A man maintaining his grace and dignity in the face of unprovoked cruelty. Arnold paused at the edge of the stage and turned back toward Kelly one last time. When he spoke, his voice carried across the entire studio, clear and strong. "Kelly, I hope you find whatever peace you're looking for. And I hope your audience remembers that kindness and respect should always win out over anger and hate." With those words, Arnold Schwarzenegger walked off the Kelly Clarkson Show stage for the last time. The audience continued their thunderous applause until he was completely out of sight. Meanwhile, Kelly stood alone in the middle of her stage, looking around at the faces of people who had lost all respect for her. "Cut to commercial," she screamed at her production team. "Cut to commercial right now!" But the damage was already done. In the span of just a few minutes, Kelly Clarkson had destroyed her reputation as America's sweetheart. She had shown the world that underneath the cheerful exterior and the inspiring songs was someone capable of unthinkable cruelty toward an innocent person. The cameras finally stopped rolling, but the memory of what had happened would live on forever. Arnold Schwarzenegger had walked onto that stage as a guest, hoping to talk about helping children. He left as a hero who had shown the world what real character looks like under pressure. Kelly Clarkson had started the interview as one of the most beloved hosts on television. She ended it as someone who had revealed her true nature in the most public and humiliating way possible. The woman who once sang about being stronger had shown that when faced with her own inner demons, she was actually the weakest person in the room. The most shocking part of all? Arnold never once fought back with the same cruelty Kelly had shown him. He proved that real strength comes from maintaining your dignity when others try to tear you down. And in doing so, he won the hearts of everyone who witnessed this unbelievable confrontation.